We shot this short film last year. The title of it is called Washed Away. It's about a woman who decides to change her life around and get baptized. And a lot of people ask me how we shot this scene. So I'm just going to play it through first so y'all can see how the scene goes. And then I'm going to do like a little breakdown of it. This is not a tutorial. It's just a breakdown and kind of the mindset I had going into shooting this scene and doing the visual effects for it. And basically, this scene is a dream sequence where she is coming face to face with her sins.
My sins torment me, so I do what I do best. I run. There's nowhere left to run. I've been running all of my life. Running from my sister, running from my son, running from God. I always wake up at this part of the dream, but not this time. It's time that I face my sins head on.
So that was the scene.
All of my sins submerged.
So basically, when you're doing any kind of 3D compositing, you're really going to deal with two types of shots. You're going to have your camera locked down, preferably on a tripod, or you're going to have the camera moving. And of course, the shot where the camera is locked down is a lot easier to 3D composite for because you don't have to worry about things like camera tracking. So this shot we start off with right here, the camera is locked down. So really all I have to do is add a 3D object, which is the car. And those gray planes that you see, those are, I put those in there for the shadow catcher. And basically it captures the shadow and the reflection from the car to help give it the illusion that the car is actually there in the scene. Now, if you really want to flex, you got to move the camera around, like I did in this shot. And it's a lot of moving around because I shot this on a FPV drone. So the camera's moving fast. And basically my workflow is I like to do my camera tracking in After Effects. And so I move my track footage and my tracking points to Blender, where I do my 3D compositing. And then I bring that back into After Effects for the final composite. So it's a lot of back and forth, but it's just how I like to do things. You can technically track the footage in Blender, but I just prefer After Effects because I'm just more used to it when it comes to camera tracking and things like masking out footage. To me, it's easier to do in After Effects. Now, this scene was actually kind of hard to track. Really unique contrast to really get good tracking points. And as you can see, the floor is white and the floor is where I want to put the car. So I was trying to figure out how to do that. So what I had to end up doing was actually tracking the ceiling, as you see right here. This is where I put my tracking points in my plane. And what I did in Blender was actually take that plane from the ceiling and drop it down to the floor. And luckily, it all matched up. It wasn't perfect, but it was good enough that the shot looked like the car was actually moving along the floor plane. Now, animating the car wasn't too tricky. Like this shot where the car is pretty much going in a straight line was easy because all I had to do was animate the car going straight. But the part where the car actually goes into the drift was a little bit different. For that, I actually had to make a path. You can see the car's following a path. The yellow line right there. It's a path that I drew out for the car to follow. and then you animate along that path. But then it's even more stuff you have to do to that, because then you have to animate the drift of the car. And so it's really just playing around with it and experimenting until it looks right. And as you can see, this is me dragging the tail of the car. I'm trying to get that drift as it turns the corner. And the drift is not the only thing you have to animate. You actually, as any car, when it turns, there's a weight transfer that takes place. You have to animate that as well, to transfer the weight into the turn as the car turns. And all that is done manually. And funny enough, after I did all this work, like maybe like a couple of months after, the add-on came out that actually calculates all this for you, like the drift and the weight transfer. So it saves on a lot of time. But still, sometimes I prefer to still do it manually because you have more control over the look that you're trying to achieve. Now, one of the things that helps sell the effect of any 3D compositing, whatever you're doing, is lighting. And so for this, I actually had to, every single light that you see this on the ceiling that when I shot the video, I had to recreate in Blender. And the reason for that is to get the reflection coming off the car as the car drives under each light. That really helped sell the effect. Of course, I shot a HDRI as well of the hallway, which I used for my environment texture for the car. But that wasn't enough as far as the actual lights in the ceiling. If I wanted to capture the lights and the glare of the lights, I actually had to create those lights in Blender. And so as you can see, I just made a whole lot of lights, which is simply just an area light. It's already in the shape of a rectangle. Just duplicate them and just place them along, down the hallway. So for this next shot, we had our main character, played by Yvonne Wells, react to a police car cutting her off. And this wide shot was pretty easy to do the VFX for. It was the close-up shot that I really didn't think enough prior to going into it. Because the way I really should have shot it was I should have shot it on a green screen. First I should have shot a clean plate of just the hallway and the camera on the tripod locked down, and then do a second take of her in front of the green screen. That way I can easily put the car behind her. But I was just being lazy. I was like, well, I'll just rotoscope that out later in post. But the issue with rotoscoping it out is, when she turns her head in slow motion, her hair is hard to rotoscope. Hair is generally hard to rotoscope, especially long, flowy hair. It's just what it is. And I didn't really think about that at the moment, so I had to spend quite a bit of time rotoscoping her hair out. And luckily, After Effects is pretty good with actually doing that. But you still have to spend the time to do it. But yeah, that's just a lesson. Don't try to take the short way out. Now the next scene with when the car turns into water and hits her, this part it's a little bit complicated. Like I mentioned earlier, when you can have still shots or shots where the camera isn't moving, which are generally easy to do VFX for, but sometimes you have to do a little bit more extra stuff. Like in this situation, I actually had to remodel the hallway, which is what I'm doing right now. I have to, model the floor, and then I have to model the walls and the ceiling and the corners. And it's a very important reason why I do that. And the reason why is when the car turns into water, you want to have something for the water to react to. You want it to hit the floor, and you want it to hit the walls and splash like it normally would in real life. So that's the reason why I have to model the hallway. And it also still serves as a shadow catcher and reflection catcher as well. And, just speaking of water in general, fluid simulations is something I'm not even gonna go into. Just know that you can spend a lot of time trying to simulate the fluid to try to get it to act the way that you want it to. And trust me, I spent a lot of time trying to do that. Same thing with smoke simulation from when the car was drifting in the hallway. It's all simulation that you run through Blender. And I think that is it. I hope y'all enjoyed this little breakdown of this dream sequence from Washed Away. I plan to do more breakdowns like this from future projects later on. So just stay tuned.